and welcome to our second week of the live recordings of Arc 6 of ReZero. We're here today. We're going to do chapters 4 to 6. We're going to keep our analysis kind of condensed today. Wolf and I have to run away a bit earlier today, but we will get all your chapters done. But without further ado, I'm going to get the cast to introduce ourselves from top to bottom of our Discord call. Hello, everybody.
Hey, I'm the number one Al stand. You can call me Al. I'm going to be narrating today.
Woohoo!
I am Connor, one of your lovely podcast hosts, and I will be continuing as Julius and Rom today.
I'm Dredd, voice of the beloved Heinkel, and in this case, the narrator. Happy to be here.
And I'm Gold today. I'm just Roswaal.
And I am Greeny, one of the editors. I shall be narrating for this stream.
Yay!
I'm Carmen, another one of the editors, and I will be your Meili.
I'm Kyles. I'm going to be Amelia, Anastasia, Aridna, and Petra.
Woman.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tealdi. Today you get somewhat sickly sounding Frederica and Beatrice. Sorry about that.
I suppose.
Hello, everyone. Wolf here. I play Subaru, and I'm also one of the hosts for the podcast.
Yay! That is everyone. Welcome, everybody. We're going to take just a moment. I need to finish settling up the backgrounds that we need really quick, but then we are going to get started. Yes. Gentlemen, do we have any announcements coming up?
We do. If y'all didn't know, Anime Japan is tonight/tomorrow morning, and we will be having an extra live stream for that. It's going to be up late, so grab your PJs, grab some popcorn. I'm going to do my best to translate what I hear them say. It's not great. I'm not fluent, but I can pick up important words. I know the characters' names. I know what they look like, and it should be fun. Those streams are a ton of fun, and maybe we get some season 4 news.
Let's hope.
We have our podcasts rolling out as we speak as usual. We have a few that have released recently. I think another one is still set to members only right now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we recorded a very special episode that's going to be premiering on Subaru's birthday next month. So keep your eyes open for that one. It's a lot of fun that we have wanting to do. And we have our finale reaction to the end of Season 3 this coming week as well. So make sure you stick around for that one as well.
Yep. And we'll also get... we just finished Arc 8 2 weeks ago on the podcast now.
Recording, yeah.
Yeah, recording, I should say. Not release. Those are getting released as we go. But yeah, you guys will be getting some Arc 9 content in the near future. So keep your peekers out for that.
I couldn't have put it any better myself. Keep your peekers out.
Your peepers.
Yeah.
Keep peepers.
As usual for these, we are using the Witch Cult translations, although my lovely co-hosts Gold and Wolf and I went through, found any of the, not problematic like Arc 4 readings were, but issued lines that needed to get a second look, went through, proofread them a lot. At some point, we'll put all these completely edited chapters out in some mass release format, I'm sure. But for now, we're still following along with the Witch Cult translations mostly, and that will still serve to let you keep up with what we're doing, if you wish to read along.
Hi. All right, everyone. I am finally ready to go, so we can start getting ready with the next chapter. Thank you, gentlemen, for buying me some time. Appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
All right, give me a second to switch over our audio real quick. Oop, wrong one. Nope, right one. All right, do you guys mind speaking?
Hello.
Hello.
All right.
Bonsoir.
Beautiful. I fixed it this time around. You guys are going to see this for a second. It will change. La 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 la. Next week I'll hopefully be a little more prepared. This week was a little crazy. We open up in the Roswaal mansion, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Are we in a room or a hallway? Would you say?
I think they're on the front lawn.
Oh, perfect.
Mhm.
That is where we
Or
start.
hold on,
Is it the dungeon?
Creed. Oh no, we're starting in a
Dungeon,
bedroom
right?
actually.
Oh,
yeah.
yes. Okay, perfect. I'll have that one set too.
Did you mean to
Oh,
switch
yes.
the podcast view?
Yes, because that has
Okay.
the better audio.
To the scene. Understood.
A blank
Yes.
podcast.
Don't worry, there's pictures coming.
Oh, there we
Welcome
go.
to the ReZero podcast. Everyone's dead. No one's here. We're all gone.
Long gone. There we go.
Oh.
Done. Boom. We are in a bedroom. This is just to help our editors mostly, and also give our viewers a little visual aid. We love that for us.
For last week, how we had to spend in like 2 entire paragraphs describing how this mansion is the same as the previous mansion, but it's not the same mansion, even though no one gets lost because it's basically the same mansion.
Roswell's so smart.
Yeah.
Why make a new blueprint? That gets confusing. Question, audience, you cannot hear the music in the background, can you?
Here, I'm gonna check it.
Oh, thank you so much. Hello, Hori.
I don't hear any music in the background, so I think we're good.
Nice.
Same.
I can focus better now. Yay! Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for that. Lovely. All right.
Live?
Before we start, I just want to
Yes.
message one thing to you, Kyles.
Yes. And then we'll get started. Thank you all for your patience.
God,
Okay,
I need to
thank
stop
you.
typing so quickly. All right, that was it.
Perfect. Can do. Thank you. Do mouse clicks as well?
I only hear the keyboard.
Perfect. Then I can change things back and forth. Excellent. All right, actors, are we ready?
Yes.
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 Beautiful. All right, narrator Kun, when you are ready, take it away.
Arc 6, Chapter 4. The reason to bring you out. To reach the Pleiades watchtower, they must conquer the deadly desert region of the Algoria sand dunes. The Witch Beastmaster, Meili, joined Subaru's group as a member that would boost their confidence in escaping from the labyrinth of sand wherein lied a witch beast den. However, even though it had been settled that she would be brought along, the girl had still been the sole resident of the mansion's confinement room for a long time, 1 year to be exact, because she had aided Roswaal. She had an history of cooperating with the Bowel Hunter in attacking the mansion, and naturally, Subaru had thought that arguments about releasing Meili from her solitary confinement would follow suit. However,
There's nothing wrong with it, is there? If Amelia-sama and Subaru-kun have decided to let you out, then why would I have a problem with it? Even if their judgment turns out to be inaccurate and she indeed has bad intentions, you all are the ones that she'd aim for, you know?
Roswaal gave Meili permission to leave with little to no fuss. The contents of his response were truly Roswaal-ish, but what mattered was that she had gained his permission for the moment anyway, and thus Meili was finally freed from her year-long confinement.
Just as I thought. The air outside is so different. Being in that cramped room for so long made it hard for me to breathe.
I mean, we still tried our best to make it not feel like that too much. It wasn't that bad, was it?
Did you? I appreciate the concern, but being able to freely move your body's a whole different feeling. Onisan, if you don't learn to notice little details, you'll be hated by Onesan and Ojo-san long before you know it, you know?
Meili's lips formed into a pout while holding her plethora of stuffed animals. Incidentally, the person Meili was referring to as Onisan was Emilia, while the person she was referring to as Ojo-chan was Beatrice. She would refer to Petra as Petra-chan, Garfield as Fang the Oni-san, and thus she reasonably referred to Otto as Weakling.
Can I rest in this room now?
As far as I know, there shouldn't be a problem. People come to clean the rooms, even the ones that aren't used very often, so you shouldn't feel uneasy about it being dirty or anything like that. Frederica should have come to clean the room right when we were bringing our luggage out as well, so...
All right.
Within the western wing of Roswaal's mansion were many private rooms for servants. The interior of one was currently being inspected by a curious Meili. Meili had been freed from the confinement room, however, her position remained complicated. Naturally, expelling her was out of question, as she needed to be taken care of at the mansion. But what exactly was her role then? Was she a guest? Was she a maid? She couldn't be pushed away to the point of calling her a guest, but she wasn't as close as to be labeled a maid. Thus, they had settled on branding her a cooperative worker of the mansion, as it would have been insufficient to call her a maid, and it would have been insufficient to call her a guest, and was assigned a room on the servants' floor. Her belongings that had been kept in the confinement room would be brought over, letting her finish decorating the space in her own way.
Even if I've been freed, I don't know how long I'll be staying here, you know? Once something like that seems like an opportunity to live peacefully appears, I might immediately run away after all.
Well, what's most important is that you don't cause trouble, nor go back to that mama of yours. You could do whatever you want other than that. Oh, but I'll make sure you carry out your duty first. And after that, then you can do whatever you want.
You're saying that when it's all taken care of, I can die whenever I want?
As long as I don't hear it happening, then I don't care who dies or where, is what the old cynical me would have said. So, I won't.
After Subaru had set down all her belongings into the room, he petted Meili's head while she stood still at the window. The girl with braided chestnut hair twinkled her eyes as Subaru continued to pet her head.
I want everyone involved to live and die decently, no matter what. You're free to leave if you want it, but at least send us back a letter or something. Just enjoy this time as genuinely as you can.
He gave a light pat to her head at the end of his statement, and brought his hand back. After receiving that tap to her head, Meili glared at Subaru with scornful eyes, putting her own hand where Subaru's had been.
Honey-san, did you win over Ojo-chan and Petra-chan like that? Jeez, I'll never be too careful around you.
I don't mean it to be like that.
Scratching his head, Subaru finished helping Meili bring her personal belongings in and headed towards the room's exit. He didn't have any intention of helping with the rearrangement of the room upon completing the task of bringing in her stuff. On top of that, there probably was an insurmountable wall separating Subaru's sense of remodeling and Meili's own. Thus, he decided it would be best to depart before doing anything unnecessary that would cause her to dislike him.
Well, I'll take your words with a grain of salt. Besides, you're going to be throwing your life away soon at the Agaria sand dunes anyway.
We aren't going to throw them away. We're going to hold on to them and get through it. And that relies quite a bit on your powers, so we'll be counting on you.
Yeah.
Swinging his hand back and forth to the girl who was blowing him off so that he would leave, Subaru left the room. She brought out each of her belongings out from a box, all while wearing an indifferent face as she avoided looking at Subaru, and her possessions were put out in a tentative manner. Just like Meili had said, this was a room that made her feel like she didn't know how long she would be staying, nor that she knew if she'd return.
Ah, this is so fun!
This girl indulged herself in her own room as she walked around with a gait that exemplified unrestrained enthusiasm. She went around arranging her favorite stuffed animals, and the happiness of the young girl, having obtained her own room for the first time, was plain for all to see. It would make anyone feel pleased to see such a spring in the step of a young girl. With the decision of adding Meili to the group, the participants in the exiting tour to Inquiry the Sage included this group of 7: Subaru, Emilia, and Beatrice, who were members of the same organization, and Julius, Anastasia, and Meili, the outsiders made collaborators. Finally, another girl would be taken out: Rem. The aforementioned were the 7 members of the party who would face the Auguria sand dunes located at the eastern end of the world. The Auguria sand dunes, a place located at the edge of the world, laid in a straight line east of the new Roswaal mansion. But as the path they would travel was longer than the one leading to the Watergate city of Pristella, it would take close to 20 days for just a one-way trip. In other words, the expedition was a big adventure. That could take 40 days just to get there and back, and it could take over 2 months if one considered the days spent after safely arriving at the watchtower and their time there. The problem with that was...
Hey, Petra! Sorry for leaving you alone, but at least let me brighten your mood.
Don't worry. I'm not angry. It's fine. Subaru-sama can go as many faraway dangerous places as he wants. Just like he always has, right?
Petra was yielding to the harsh depression that resulted from having to stay behind during the Priscilla affairs for a whole month, which would soon become a period of 2 more months. This girl walked impetuously around the mansion with a cold, clear face as she waved around her maid outfit, an outfit that was well suited for her petite body. As for Subaru, he was following her back, showering her in apologies in the midst of trying his best to repair her humor. So why was it even necessary for Subaru to be this frantic about fixing Petra's mood? Well, the common assumption was that, in all times and all places, whenever a girl became displeased in such a manner, it would usually be the guy's fault. In fact, Petra was the best representative of femininity in the mansion. The guys, unfortunately enough to have been the ones who ruined her mood, were those in the mansion: Subaru, Roswaal, Garfield, Otto. Who else could it have been? Technically, not every guy was unfortunate in this sense, but when Puck does come back, he would join the ranks of the bad boys. Too bad. Anyway...
I know it must have been suffocating to have been left with Vashti for a month, but it is your job, so try not to be too picky about...
I don't get mad over things like that. I'm not a kid. Stop saying weird things that when I have Ram Ne-sama and Frederica Ne-sama.
To think a girl who belts the bits of a man's stomach would claim she's not a kid is just...
An angry Petra had caused Subaru to collapse in agony with a strike to a vital part of his body. With her hands on her hips and her thin chest puffed out, Petra seemed nothing if not childish. But a lady is made in spirit before it is in body. In Beatrice's case, her body never grew, and her spirit was lagging behind too.
But, Petra, wasn't this headbutt from a higher place than your previous one? Well, even then, it felt like there was a small moment at the start of your last headbutt where you were on your tiptoes before you came flying towards my chest.
I'm dumbfounded. Didn't I tell Beatrice? Hey, look! I've grown up this past month. My back has grown, my legs have grown. And hasn't my face become cute as well?
I guess you did grow a bit. Your back and your hair, I mean. Although, your face was cute from the beginning.
Petra was the beauty of the Arlem village. Having been lured away by the mansion to serve as one of its maids, had caused a great fuss, as Petra, being the village's boy's dream girl, was the one girl everyone wanted to marry. To be more specific, you could cause a sumo wrestling tournament to unfold in the center of the plaza if you challenged these crybabies. The adults would barge in at the end, and the celebration of lifting the somehow beaten up Subaru into the air would reach its end. It would be an enigmatic rite of passage. Anyhow, Petra was this girl who was loved by the villagers. She was a girl who often expressed her sorrow about helping with the mansion. He wanted to use the convention of having her in the mansion as much as possible for the sake of the extraordinary future potential Petra had in store. At the same time, Subaru held no power within the mansion, so he would cherish these days to an extent so that he'd continue on without forgetting this type of ordinary life.
Also, you weren't able to be the extremely painful girl that you are. As for Naysummer and her well-known temper, I am aware of how you feel suffocated from having her tell you to work all the time.
It's not like that, though.
Subaru let both of his arms open to console the pouting girl. Petra showed a slightly hesitant gesture, and then she jumped into Subaru's arms. He hugged her small body and then petted her head as to reward her.
Subaru-sama, you're going to do something dangerous again.
It's not as if it's completely settled that it's gonna be dangerous, you know? Actually, it kind of sounds like I'm saying you shouldn't consider the possibility of it being dangerous, but the truth is, it really might be a reasonably safe expedition.
What's the probability of each outcome?
I guess it would be a ratio of 8 to 2, with the safe outcome being the lowest, maybe?
To me, that sounds like it'd be pretty dangerous then.
Not being able to lie in a meaningful conversation was one of Subaru's bad habits. Subaru felt like Petra had begun to becoming displeased while being held in his arms. He let out a sigh, as he did not understand what was wrong with her. Suddenly, Petra started to rub her forehead against his stomach.
I'm worried. Subaru-sama's always like this. Ever since you first came to the mansion, and ever since I met you at the village. You've been through so much, and going all over the place diligently without even taking a break? It would be nice if you learn a thing or two from Lazy Master.
Nah, even though Roswaal gave his stamp of approval, he probably has some sweat rolling down his forehead whenever we're somewhere he can't see. I agree that he is useless when it comes to life-threatening matters, though.
It was rough with the witch beasts. It was rough with the witch cult. It was rough with the earth spider. It was rough with the goddess statue. It was rough with the great Elior forest. And it was rough cleaning the graves, too. Despite all that, you fought with the witch cult of Prostella. And then Otto and the others died. Well, almost.
We almost got Otto killed again.
Dice too much. Amazingly enough, Subaru was in complete agreement with this notion, but he wished that he wouldn't simply die. If Otto died, Subaru would not be able to avoid dying himself as well. Amazingly, Subaru... Not to boast of it as a friendship that not even death would tear apart, though.
Why can't someone other than Subaru-sama do it? Another person? You should just leave it up to someone stronger or something like that. Like Master, since he has the time.
I I understand. I understand just how much frustration you've had piled up because of how Roswaal wastes his time so often. Stop trying to drive Roswaal off to his death every time you can. There's way too much friction in this camp.
It could be overlooked if all it were the things like Petra serving Roswaal his tea with dirty rag water, although it would obviously be bad if she started being more malicious and hostile in more concrete ways. Before it turned out like that, however, Subaru let out a commanding voice, but Petra eyed Subaru with a serious look. It seemed like half-assed deception and insincere words would not be able to convince her. Also, above all, Petra was seriously worried about Subaru's safety. Seeing anything unnecessary and careless in this situation would be disrespectful to Petra's feelings of anxiety.
Well, I get your point. I really do. It's true that there seem to be witch beasts on the way to the Sage's Tower. It's true that the desert's maze is rumoured to be ridiculous. And I know how ridiculous it is in the first place to aim for a sage that get mad at us for coming close to the tower. But even then, there's no way in hell I'd leave this up to someone else.
Why? Subaru-sama, are you perhaps overestimating your own strength? Just let Garf-san take an embarrassing assumption like that.
Petra's grading is seriously strict to the extreme! There's no way in hell I'm going to let Garfio hear that!
His critical standards were so harsh that it would make many men tremble upon hearing them. It would be appropriate to characterize Garfio's attitude towards his weakness as one of making false expectations while being unfazed. However, Garfio made sure to put an earnest effort to change these false expectations into reality. Also, in this case, the problem was probably the fact that he would be stronger when holding these erroneous beliefs. This matter at hand, thus, could not be heard by Garfio, considering his interpretation of his strength versus his actual strength.
Well, speaking of Garfio's delusion, his way of thinking, it's not like there's no one out there more suitable for the task than I am. Certainly, when you're thinking of traversing a grand sand labyrinth, objectively, it would make much more sense to leave this up to Reinhard.
Then why don't you let him do it?
I wonder why. I like receiving praise, but concepts like honor have never been a part of me.
In actuality, he really did not understand why he desired to do it like this. However, if he were to dare and put it in words, perhaps these would be how to best put it.
No, never mind. This is something I want to do myself, after all. Even if there's someone more suited for it out there. Even though I know there'd be a high chance of success. That way, I still want to do it.
Why?
It's embarrassing, but it's because I want me to be the first person she sees when she wakes up.
He did not specify who, but even so, Petra understood who it was. If a way to wake up that girl, the girl that laid in a state of continuous deep slumber, were to be found at the Sage's Tower, he wanted to be the one to seize it. Even if there was someone else out there more suitable for the endeavor, even if someone other than himself with a higher chance of success existed, this was the sole thing he would not give up. He did not want to give it up. This was Subaru's ego.
If I were to disregard my feelings and think of it from a rational viewpoint, anyone could be the one to wake her up. If something like a ridiculous disease of never being able to wake up were to spread, and were this the only way about saving them, I wouldn't care about anyone else developing a vaccine or wonder drug to cure it. I wouldn't care about the process if it meant saving them.
Yeah.
But if I allow my feelings to come into the picture, I want to do things myself. I want to be the one to help them. I want to be the one to wake them up. I want to give it my all and save everything.
Thus, Natsuki Subaru would be the one to go. There were countless others who were stronger. There were countless others who were more reliable. There were countless others who were wiser. There were countless others who held more graceful characters. But Natsuki Subaru's own ego would ignore all of that. And so, he would be the one to go. Only because he wanted to be praised by this girl after saving her.
Sorry for disappointing you with my selfishness.
You really did disappoint me. Nothing you said changes anything for me.
Hmm?
After Subaru's own acknowledgement of his shamefulness, Subaru petted Petra's head, bracing himself for her hatred. But after Petra let out an unclear voice, she lifted her head from Subaru's arms. Subaru was surprised that her round, large eye had become clouded by giant teardrops. And then...
Hey!
Another headbutt!
Petra swung her pointy head downward, and then her forehead caused great pain to the pit of Subaru's stomach. She had aimed at Subaru's defenseless vitals, making him fall to his knees, promptly escaping from his arms with an anticlimactic leap, then closing one of her eyes and sticking out her tongue.
Subaru-sama, you idiot! You're selfish! Why don't you just go do whatever you want? Because when you return after 2 months, I'll surprise you by becoming a really beautiful girl. Feel free to regret not being able to see that grow up close.
Oh, there's really something unfortunate about that.
It would not be unusual for a kid to change during their growth period so suddenly. Petra was a glamorous 13-year-old after all. So after 2 months, she might give out a completely different impression.
To tell you the truth, I also grew 19 centimeters between the 7th and 8th grades.
Huh? That seems a little impossible.
Well, Subaru's case was rare. He had only grown so much because he was originally short. Although Petra almost broke down due to the size of the expectations he had of her. This girl clenched her fist soon after, and then, thrusting both of her fists towards Subaru, she declared,
Anyway, what Subaru-sama should do is go ahead and travel whatever dangerous places he wishes, worrying everyone and troubling everyone. And after that, come back like you always do.
It sounds like I'm a pretty big nuisance to others when you say that.
Although looking at it that way, the way she had described him surprisingly did not sound far from the truth. Anyhow, Subaru pushed out both of his hands as well, and then matched Petra's fist with his own.
It's always troubling for Petra, but I'll carelessly head towards dangerous places like I always do. And you just wait for me to return, after all those things are done and dusted like you always do. It's Petra's own special right to welcome us back once we return from our journey.
You won't let Frederica Nisama or Ren Nisama say before me, right?
Yeah, I promise.
Including Master?
Don't worry about that. If Roswaal was the first one to appear after we come back, I'll smack him.
I understand. Alright, that convinces me.
She pulled back the fists that were matched with Subaru's, and then that triumphant spirit started to flow out of the sight Petra. Largely because he had let Petra take over the flow of the conversation, though.
Jeez, Subaru-sama can't be helped.
Somehow, it felt like her statement had been delivered in a way that made it seem as if she were talking to everyone. Subaru thought that he couldn't wrap his head around that. Although he was not worried to the point of anxiety, in order to settle an uncertain matter that lied within the mansion, Subaru finally stepped inside that room. Entering this room was the only time Subaru would naturally hold his breath and lighten his footsteps. But even if he were to enter the room while singing loudly and tapping his feet, the situation within the room definitely would not change. Still, perhaps he unconsciously decided to keep silent within the room simply for the sake of the girl who was lying on the bed within the room, whose figure would cause pain to swell up within his chest if he were to look at it excessively. It was a deep sleep. If she were able to wake up, he would wish for her to wake up right at this instant. However, he felt that disturbing her deep sleep would be akin to blasphemy. This girl, who had sunken into a deep sleep of everlasting dreams, was precious to him to such a degree.
I say that. But that, of course, is just my own overly subjective belief.
Saying those words with a tone of dismay, Subaru pulled out a chair beside the bed to sit on. Just like that, 1 month had passed since he last stepped foot into this room, and he was reunited with the face of a sleeping Rem, whose state showed no change, still in a state of deep slumber, ever since a year ago.
I'm back! Sorry for coming to see you so late. I had some business to take care of, and I was a bit hesitant about it too, 'cause it made this visit very last minute.
It was obvious, but of course there was no response from the sleeping Rem. Subaru reached out with his voice, despite knowing that there would be no response, and held a calm expression even then. Natsuki Subaru had an expression that he would expose only to this specific girl. He owned this determined expression, indicating he was ready to throw away his life in earnest, that he would only show to Emilia. He owned this trustful expression that made it seem as if he would be able to entrust his life, that he would only show to Beatrice. And then he owned this expression that exposed his weaknesses, which he so often tried to conceal, the expression that he would only show to Rem.
What should I tell you? Actually, there's so many things I could talk to you about, you know? I couldn't come here while I was at the Watergate city of Prestella, and a lot of things happened there. It was such a big uproar that even if I talked to you about it all night, there'd still be more to tell you about. But I suppose I have all the time in the world to talk to you about all that.
Subaru gently slapped his hand within the bed, searching for the hand of the girl who had a towel blanket up to her chest, and began speaking upon grasping Rem's hand. With her long fingertips, with her slender, pale arms, her gentleness and existence of her warmth were evident, but for some reason there was the mysterious sense of blood aflow. No, a sign of life within her was missing. A lone force within her was preserving her life. However, there was no force within her that simultaneously preserved her life and made it whole. Rem's life, with this contradictory situation, had her time frozen even now, trapped within a state of deep slumber. However,
I might finally reach you. Of course, it's also possible that my expectations are too high, and I end up not being satisfied. Of course, it's also possible that in the end, the sage will fail to live up to their name and end up with nothing, only to have them apologise for the inaccurate information. But
a clear path to a solution, other than defeating gluttony, finally was coming into sight. Although the fact that the path he had followed to reach this answer had been shaped by others was a source of disappointment, even so, it resembled a ray of light, one that seemed like he was finally able to grasp.
because I was too busy freaking out to ask Echidna.
Within the sanctuary, within the witch's tomb, back when he had been invited to a tea party in a dream, he confronted Echidna, the witch of greed, and in rejecting her, Subaru escaped her control. It was a choice taken to protect Natsuki Subaru's fragile soul, but at the same time, it was a decision that distanced himself from the one person who might have assisted him in finding a way to save Rem. Of course, it was hard to gauge just how much insight Echidna, a witch most knowledgeable of the past, could lend about an archbishop brandishing their power in the present. But maybe, had he revealed the situation to her, listening to the witch's input might have been helpful. Right after determinedly rejecting the witch's request, he had been confident that the right decision had been made. But as time went on, he became aware that it felt that the passing seasons and the relationships developed were leaving Rem behind. He became worried about whether his decision was the correct one after all. Even if he had promised from the bottom of his heart that he would save her, he himself had yet to take any defined action for that end. But finally, he was now able to do something for her sake. Having slipped out of the deadlock that had stagnated every time. In the city of Pristella, a multitude of people had suffered the same type of fate as Rem, and for that purpose of saving them, they would embark on a journey to the Pleiades Watchtower. However, if he were to point out his real motive, the real reason that drove Subaru towards the Watchtower was Rem. Even while understanding that it was both unreasonable and inappropriate, Subaru...
I will save you, Rem. This is the oath I've made.
Just like she had been there for Subaru in those fragile days, in those times, now in these times where Rem needed someone's hand the most, was when Subaru wanted to be the one there for her and offer his hand.
Hurts.
Huh?
Subaru, who had his eyes closed tight while speaking words of determination, heard a voice which made him raise his face abruptly. He took a look at Rem with inconceivable surprise within his eyes, only to find that she was laying there, quietly, her eyes closed, holding on Subaru's hand in silence. Then, whose voice was...
Let go of her hand, Barasu. Just looking at how strongly you are holding her hand brings me pain.
Oh, it's you, Ram.
Looking back at the entrance of the room, Subaru saw Ram standing there, her cold look shooting daggers at him. After being relieved by her gaze, Subaru hurriedly released his hand, the one that had been holding to Rem's own, having realized that he had been grasping it with more strength than he had thought.
I cannot bear watching Rem's whitebait-like fingers being violated by Barasu's sexual desires.
Can you not say it like that? That'll make me feel like my previous determination has turned into something completely filthy.
After Subaru let go of Rem's hand, Ram, who had stepped into the room, took her hand instead. The older sister gently caressed the slender white fingers of her younger sister, then regarding Subaru with a side glance.
Was your determination really that pure? Carefully reflect on yourself a bit more and make your speech again. If you lust after me instead, someone who looks extremely similar to Rem, Ram will also get down shivers upon her spine and run away.
Calm down. Even though your physical appearances are extremely alike, I will never confuse you two because of the differences in your inner self's radiance. I'm not a half-hearted man who judges only on outward appearance.
Is that so? I guess that is fine then. Even if you have found a way to wake her up, it's hard to imagine how Rem would feel if Barasu had forgotten her during this year. It would be surprising if she does not hold any distaste for you, if your depictions of her during our idle conversations were not wild fantasies, that is.
Just how little faith do you have in me? We've known each other for a long time now, you know.
Ha! Snorting with her nose like she always did, Ram moved to get up from her seat and took a look around the room.
I need to get ready to leave, so someone also needs to prepare a second set of clothes for Rem. She doesn't sweat, so changing her clothes really is unnecessary, but her body still requires being wiped off. Something's widening below your nose. Disgusting.
I didn't say anything because there wasn't really anything to say. But even this is the treatment I get.
Rem, having fallen into her slumber from having her name and memories eaten, was basically unreactive to any physical stimuli. In regards to caring for her body, there was no practical reason to do things like wiping her down or changing her clothes. The reasoning for those around her to do such things was nothing more than to feel some level of comfort, to feel that her existence was not being fully left behind. The reason of those around her for doing such things was no more than to simply feel some comfort occasionally that her existence was not being left behind. Only considering the practical aspects of doing all this, actions like Subaru making a speech and Ram taking care of her younger sister's body, neither did anything positive for the situation. Yet, despite that, the reason why neither attempted to stop such pointless actions was because everyone realized that even if they did not say it out loud, they knew that people still acknowledged the fact their actions would not be accompanied by actual consequences.
Isn't it about time for you to start feeling as if Rem is your real sister?
Subaru asked this question unexpectedly to her as she was looking down at the figure of a sleeping Rem, lending her own hand with a gentleness that did not befit the girl named Ram. Even though Ram bravely took care of Rem, no memories of the girl who represented her other half remained within her. Shell was so similar to Ram, it was impossible for anyone to claim that they were unrelated. But if one were to solely consider Rem's true feelings, her relationship with Rem was a weak one. Still, days like these passed by for a whole year. Even though she had lost her memories of her, it was possible for new, different ones to form. Perhaps even at that moment, definite memories were taking form within Ram.
Earnest feelings such as these do not sprout that easily. No memories of her remain in me, and I have never witnessed this girl in an awake state. Although I could imagine that she was probably someone of excellence and grace, similar to Ram.
She sure was excellent, but I don't really have any memory of her being that graceful. Rather, I've had my fair share of worries because she would be in a hurry to get to the point of being reckless.
She did blow away half his body, he supposed, but there were reasons. Ram responding to Subaru with an
I see.
Her voice listenless, similar to the wind.
Speaking of memories that I do not remember, even if just for amusement, is nothing more than moving backwards. It is something Ram is not very fond of, Barasu.
Is that so? If you say so, then I'll stop.
After she wakes up, if I regain my memories of her then, we can talk about plenty of things. But even if they are not restored, as long as she wakes up, then you may talk as much as you wish.
Peeping into the face of her younger sister, Ram played with her bangs with an unchanging expression. Rem's hair freely drifted down from above her pale forehead. Ram let out a small sigh. Her profile looked cruel, yet gentle, to Subaru. Even if she remembered nothing, even if memories of her had been lost, it was not as if their bond had disappeared. And even if it had indeed vanished, that did not mean that they could not be forged anew. Those were his thoughts.
Well, leave all that to me. I'll conquer the Sage's watchtower, and then definitely make Rem wake up. And then you two sisters will have your emotional reunion.
Thus, Subaru said these words in an excessively bright manner, with a deliberately loud voice. If anything, this moment between Subaru and Ram did not befit the quiet atmosphere within the room. However, Ram looked back at him after his remarks with an extremely confused look.
What are you saying, Barasu?
Huh?
Ram looked at Subaru the way one would look at an idiot.
Ram will also accompany you on this next journey, so putting it that way is pretty condescending. If it is going to be an emotional reunion, Ram will be having it herself.
That's news to me, you know!
In response to Subaru widening his eyes in surprise, Ram gave Subaru a look even more full of spite. However, that gaze was unreasonable, for he could not know what he had not been told about, and he could not be aware of things that he had not heard about. In response to Subaru asking what she was talking about, Ram maintained an approach of covering her ears from his words, rejecting him. And after that, this day of preparation would go by, and the two would not be able to have a straightforward conversation. Rem and Ram, the sisters, had been confirmed to accompany them. A journey to the Pleiades Watchtower to meet the sage, Shala. That was the type of situation that seemed to lie ahead, for a total of 8 participants, a large group.
Woohoo!
Woo!
Long
Oh my
chapter.
God.
Oh,
Oh my God, I choked. I completely choked right there.
that's
That was
so good,
fine.
that's so
Alright, it was
good.
great.
It's all
for
good.
this- no, I saw like 2 of the same versions the first time. I caught it
Yeah.
real quick. And then when I read the second one, I'm like, oh crap, it's the same line, but just.
That's been gone over by like 6 people at this point, and everyone missed it each time.
I caught it. That's why I just brute forced it. But the second one, I don't know why I should have seen it. And then I ran out of air on that third one.
It happens. That's why this is just a recording, and we can go back and fix things in post.
Wahoo!
It was also a abnormally long chapter too of narration.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
It's
I'm
17
surprised I was
pages.
able to do that with only one loss of air by that point.
Oh my gosh.
Gosh.
What do y'all thought about the chapter?
I like
So many
that
sweet
he
scenes.
Interesting setup.
so many characters to visit. I'm glad that we did, but like it just everyone was just scolding Subaru. I feel like because I've read Arc 6 now, I'm just like, yeah, this checks out. This checks out.
Bash
Yeah.
Super in the head with a frying pan.
Yeah, I don't know how much analysis we're gonna get out of this chapter. It's such a build-up.
Mhm.
I know.
Well, you know, it's funny. Like a lot of the times after an arc, there's always has to be a moment where all the characters come together and are like, "Hey, so you haven't seen me in a while. What happened?" And then he's like, "Oh, hey, it's you, lovable scamp." And then
Level 1 skip.
obviously this is them setting up for the expedition, and that makes sense, right? You want to understand who's there with it. And it's nice because some of these characters, somebody was talking about the fact that like there's some characters that you don't see for like 8 years in the story, and when they come back, you're like, oh my god, it's been 8 years since this character has been written in the story. Like, I'm not saying Petra is one of those characters, but it's been at least a little bit since you last saw her at this point.
yeah, it's I really like that scene with Rem too. I think it's one of my favorite scenes that Subaru has with like sleeping Rem here, of just like him contemplating over things and really thinking about why he's going to the watchtower for Rem. And his banter with Ram in this last bit it's so good. It helps alleviate the tone of the sad situation so well.
Connor is doing an incredible job with Ram.
You are. It is so impressive, genuinely.
It's amazing.
Sorry, I'm back. I had to step away for a quick second.
You're amazing. We
Well,
love
thank
you.
you.
He missed the compliment.
Ah, shoot.
I'm gonna have to watch that one back.
I mean, yeah, maybe.
It's
I mean, yeah,
real-time.
it's a great scene. I like all the scenes of this one a lot.
There's a lot of really good dialogue in these chapters too, at the very least, right?
Mhm.
I
there is
think,
now.
yeah. Well, yeah, we kind of fixed it. But yeah, like the idea is that like a lot of these scenes, are predicated basically on the character interactions, which is one of those things where you're like, in an anime, you probably wouldn't get as in depth, but like it's still nice to read when it's like this in this format, especially as like a audiobook. It feels a lot better, right? Like when you read this on your own, it probably feels a little bit dull or boring, but like injecting some life into the conversation kind of helps a long way to appreciate what Teppei is writing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very much, it feels like it was kind of made to be an audio drama in a way, you know? I think one of Teppei's biggest strengths as Araya is his dialogue like this, right? Just these characters interacting with each other and the way they've changed over the course of the story, even in small ways, and how that comes across in dialogue. It's just really, really good. It's also great
It's really good.
Round out Subaru's like determination from Arc 5 of being that hero and being that person, and him reinforcing it here to a crowd that doesn't seem too interested in that talk. But
they do not. Like, okay, man.
I feel like
Sit down.
the attitude of it is like, yeah, that's the way you are, but it's not good. Like everyone's like, they're like, oh yeah, sure, that's just the way you are, but they're like still kind of ribbing him about
Isn't
it.
Garfield better suited for that than you, though?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you
Yeah,
ask
exactly.
Reinhardt
Yeah, I was
instead?
gonna say,
really be going.
Call in a tactical Reinhard, you know?
I'm not letting you do that. I'm coming too.
And
At least he's aware he's being selfish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
While reading it, and read it before, I definitely just like Subaru understands that he's being like selfish and reckless, but that the job for waking Rem up, he wants to be the one to do it, even if that's clearly not the best option.
Even if it kills him.
And it
Spoilers, it will.
More.
Yeah. What? No! Oh!
Yep, sorry to tell you, Subaru dies.
Wait,
Oh,
I thought this
classic.
whole arc was him just not dying, though.
Knee slapper.
Oh,
Classic.
I don't know. With Teppei's writing, I really like when he just goes into the person's like inner thoughts and stuff. It really fascinates me.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's some of my favorite narration in the story whenever you get deeper into the character's thoughts. It just feels so good, especially when it leads into dialogue from that too. It just flows so well.
Yeah, the depressing part of Subaru being with Rem and then suddenly being snapped out of it by Ram.
Yep.
Step back to reality.
I just love how insightful Ram is in every conversation they have, where she always finds a way to lighten the tone whenever he seems like he's mega depressed.
Yeah. Shakes him out of it. It's like, quit being gross. I'm not being gross. You're holding her
Yes,
fingers.
you
I have to wipe her
were.
down now.
Absolutely fucking disgusting!
Subaru could be like going through an entire mental breakdown, and she'd walk in and be like, "You're stinky," and it would turn into an entire being stinky or not.
Mm-hmm. All right, we ready for chapter 5?
Yes, sorry, I just got back.
Yep.
Yeah!
All right,
Woohoo.
chapter 5. We start out in front of the Roswaal mansion, if I'm not wrong.
Make a
No,
decision.
hallway?
2 cancers to participate. 3.
Sort of?
I'll just switch to a
They
hallway.
are in the front garden of the mansion when it starts.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
The front garden. Because you have to have more than one, don't you, Roswaal?
Oh yeah.
Or
Well, what's he
Just
gonna do with
checking.
all that
You're among
money?
Tours with
Oh.
only one garden.
How many mansions does that guy have?
I was about to say, you know he has like 20,
3.
probably has 20 other mansions. Wait, he has
He had
actually...
3 mansions to start the story.
I love that for him. What a nice
You could
life.
just get more. Like, what's stopping?
Buy a mansion, rent the other one out, then use that money to buy another mansion, and yeah.
And set that mansion
Infinite
on fire.
money!
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
renting the
Collect
second one out.
Insurance.
He's letting Anna Rose use the second one.
Oh, that's right.
yeah,
Anna
'cause-
Rose is using a
Yeah.
smaller seat.
Because he's not spending any money on upkeep for him, so it's just like, this one's kind of run down. Burn it.
Burn it.
Burn the mansion.
All right. I got us in a new location. We got our narrator,
Woo!
Brad. Everyone else is ready to go.
So ready!
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ready.
Yep.
I
I'm
adjusted my
ready.
gain. Is it okay?
I'm good.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Perfect.
Kyle, so the front garden is just like the front entrance. It's like
Oh, it
outside
is.
the front of the mansion. Yeah,
Ah,
it's like
okay.
where he meets Wilhelm. I think they're like next to the carts.
I don't have
pretty
one that
close.
close, so we're gonna use this. Not
Okay.
with the time we have, at least. It's
I
gonna
think
take
this.
us
I
10
think this
minutes.
works though.
We'll just fix
Yeah,
it
it
in
does.
post.
Exactly.
For
Edit
the
in
one
post.
hidden line, do you want me to come in with the horrible
that
accent,
one.
or do you just want to take it?
That one is the scarf on Anastasia. So I think we'll stick to me for this one, just to
Okay.
distinguish between the witch and the spirit.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But next time she's on, hell yeah, she's yours. Sweet. All right. All right, Rad, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. Arc 6, Chapter 5. To each their unease. Various discussions were had, along with some confusion when making a decision on the travelers. Some problems arose when bidding farewell to the people left behind, but still, the morning of their departure had finally arrived.
It turned out to be a bigger group than I thought, but
Folding his arms, Subaru gazed at the people who were to travel alongside him. Flubbed it. Folding his arms, Subaru gazed at the people who would travel alongside him in the tour to conquer the Siege's tower. The two camps to participate were the Amelia camp and the Anastasia camp. The Amelia camp was represented by, of course, Subaru, Amelia, Beatrice, Rem, the perpetual sleeper, and Ram, who accompanied her. Then there was Anastasia, the guide for the Aguria sand dunes, and her knight, Julius, adding in Meili, who was brought along as the witch beast master so they could pass by the hordes of witch beasts that lived in the dunes. That made up a total of 8 people. If their aim was to enact a simple plan for their movement, then they had a lot of people involved in reclaiming Priscilla, and if their aim was in regards to leading people, Subaru had experience with the subjugation of the White Whale, as well as the battle against Sloth. However, when it came to moving towards that faraway land, these 8 key people, despite being a large number of people on the road, had no experience.
I wonder if it'll actually be alright.
Worried about something, Subaru?
He twisted his neck while imagining the distant future, and saw Amelia pop up in his vision. Subaru cleared his throat with an ahem, directed at the girl who was wearing a lightweight dress for traveling afar, and spoke.
Whenever I think about the place we're going to, I can't stop being nervous. Other than that, I feel afraid about going to a dangerous place with such a large group, since it's hard to protect so many people.
You may be right. Rem and Ram are coming along too. Subaru will have to be protected by Meili and Anastasia.
What the? I'm already being treated as a non-combatant!
Come on, Subaru. Obviously it was a joke. You're being taken seriously, really.
When Subaru suddenly screeched at Amelia, whose fists were balled up, she began laughing, unable to contain it. Subaru also chuckled at her reaction, but his smile was subtle and forced. To tell the truth, Subaru's combat ability was overwhelmingly inferior to Amelia's. From her point of view, Subaru was the one who should be protected. Of course, she didn't mean to only think of him as that.
The next thing to feel uneasy about would be...
Subaru took a breather from his conversation with Amelia, and turned his attention towards the front. They were already at the Roswaal residence's front garden, and the preparations to depart were going swimmingly. Beyond Subaru's line of sight was a passenger carriage, large enough to carry 10 people or so. The heads of 2 ground dragons were connected, for the purpose of pulling the dragon carriage. Both were breeds that were adequate to travel long distances. The problem would be the situation next to the dragon carriage. There was a jet black ground dragon, casually standing still, and a small silhouette that had come face to face with the ground dragon's snout, the latter glaring at the former. Exhaling a stunned sigh at the situation, Subaru cut in between the two, staring at each other.
You've been given the grandiose name of Witch Beast Master, but you can't even get along with ground dragons?
Come on, Oni-san! Can you not misunderstand me? The only animals I can discipline are the ones that are bad and have horns. Any other animal won't like me, 'cause I smell like those children.
Got it. Must be rough, huh?
Subaru shrugged his shoulders at Meili's explanation and stroked Petra's snout, still glaring at the girl. When Subaru touched the very prideful female ground dragon, it took a blunt sniff of his hand's stink. It was as if she was doing this to override the stink of the girl in front of her with Subaru's own stench.
It really is unusual to see Petra be this blunt. She's usually so tolerant and considerate. Seems you really are incompatible.
I can kinda be friendly with other animals, but that ground dragon is too attached to Oni-san. She's so attached that it feels like if I let my guard down, I'll get bitten. Oni-san, if you don't discipline her properly, I'll become that animal's food, so be careful.
Don't say such scary things like it's nothing. Here, Petra, go with her.
Calming down the slightly agitated but very loving dragon, Subaru quickly put Meili on the dragon carriage. Furthermore, this witch beast master who they would travel along had little luggage. She was a girl who rarely carried any belongings to start with, so it was heartwarming to see she had brought the stuffed panda Subaru had crafted.
Looks like you're having trouble, Natsuki-kun. Always trying to put girls in a good mood.
If you think so, then it'd make me happy if you didn't bother me.
As Meili was pushed onto the dragon carriage, Anastasia called out to him with a teasing tone. Anastasia, or rather, the white fox inside her, Echidna. In the 20 days from Priscilla to the mansion, most of the differences had been smoothed out. If she would continue playing the role of Anastasia, it seemed like it would eventually become hard to tell them apart.
I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't down me like that. Didn't I tell you that I got no motivation to do it? That's why I volunteered to be a guy's guide for a dangerous path.
Well, considering you're creator, my stance is that there's a possibility of you having various plans. I've said this many times too, so remember it. It's not like I don't want to believe you. It would make me feel a lot more at ease if I could.
It is not amusing, being at such a disadvantage because of someone I do not recall. It seems like this creator, of whom I have no recollection, has quite displeased you. Don't get so mad at me. Jeez, how frightening.
He glared at Echidna, and she went back to disguising herself as Anastasia, pursing her lips, and returning to her original state. With that, she passed by Subaru and stepped into the dragon carriage. Thus, the number of people was...
Subaru-kun, can I speak to you for a bit as well?
Having been beckoned verbally, he turned around, witnessing Roswaal at the mansion's entranceway. Next to the Margrave, dressed in a clown outfit, were two people, Amelia and Julius. Thinking about the oddness of the combination, Roswaal turned to the three people and closed one eye.
First of all, I imagine that this journey will take almost 2 months. Because of that, I'm thinking that there might be some unforeseen situations midway through. Amelia-sama and Anastasia-sama surely shall be able to deal with each of the problems that arise, but...
You can count on me. It's not like I'll sit around being idle either, after all.
Those words are reassuring. I'm honestly pleased with Amelia-sama's growth. Alright, putting aside the anxieties of the journey as something to be taken care of by each of you, there is one important thing to note. Ram.
Roswaal said that with a lower voice, making Subaru and the others' expressions change. Amelia's long eyelashes twitched, while Subaru's cheeks stiffened as if sinking into a deep thought. And then Julius, the only person unrelated to the camp at this place, frowned slightly.
Regarding what you are saying, is it truly fine if I am present? Meili, as Anastasia's knight, to discuss the state of camp affairs is... Although I am a mere servant, you should understand that revealing them would not be a good idea.
It's not like I proposed the idea without caring about anything and anybody. Julius Duculius Dono, after seeing your behavior at your mansion and the way you behave with Subaru-kun, I've come to understand that you are a reliable person. I would like you to believe that, and so that's why I'm requesting a favor from you.
This is the shadiest you've sounded in a long time, Roschi.
Sorry, but I kind of thought so too.
When Roswaal replied to Julius's worry with a serious voice, Subaru and Amelia both raised a hand up, almost in tandem, and teased him. Even ignoring his past criminal offenses, what Roswaal had stated was too uncharacteristic of himself. He said, "It's not like that," perhaps because he himself was aware of how atypical he had been. Sending a wry smile at Subaru and the others' way, he continued.
Well, maybe my lack of persuasion just can't be helped. Julius-kun is doing everything he can so the other camps can find faults. I really do think you do not possess an underhanded personality. That's why I want you to listen too. This is a life-threatening matter, after all.
When Julius whispered that with an extremely serious face, Roswaal nodded.
Yes, life. As Subaru-kun and Amelia-sama know, Ram's constitution is a little special. Her body cannot withstand the talent that was poured onto her. Or perhaps you could say that her body cannot provide the fuel proper for the flame called talent.
You know, I've never heard about this much in detail.
Is that so? Then, how about her being an Oni?
Well, that's...
Of course, he knew that Ram and Rem are both Onis. More than twice now, he had been saved by Rem, who could exert her Oni power to her heart's content by growing her horn. He had also heard from Ram herself about how she lost her horn and was hornless. Therefore, Subaru hadn't thought it was something surprising.
An Oni, you say?
Julius?
The person who lowered his voice and revealed his astonishment was the person next to him, Julius. On his handsome face, his eyebrows had been lifted, a disturbance visible in his yellow eyes.
I have heard that the Oni clan had been destroyed.
About 10 years ago, their last settlement was burnt down, and Ram was the last survivor. Apologies, including Rem, the two sisters are the last survivors.
It was a loaded statement, but Subaru did not butt into the conversation. He was more surprised at how those sisters were part of a rarer species than expected, more than irritated.
Is there a reason as to why the Onis perished?
Rest assured, Amelia-sama, the downfall of the Onis was inevitable because of natural selection. It was a result of them not going along with the flow of the times and clinging onto old customs. They didn't lower numbers because of discrimination and prejudice, consequently being destroyed, assuredly.
I see.
Amelia made an understanding, melancholic look at Roswaal's explanation. She too was of a rare birth. Amelia was a half-elf. It was natural for her to feel unease and some sympathy for the only clan that had perished, having left the two of them behind.
We get that those two are all members of the Oni clan. So what?
Subaru sensed the conversation was starting to stagnate, so he moved the conversation with an intentionally loud voice. When Amelia and Julius lifted their faces in response to that voice, Roswaal touched his chin and spoke.
Putting aside Ram, whose bodily activity has ceased, there is a deficiency in Ram's body, like I said earlier. This is because she lost an organ that is important for the Oni clan. That organ is the horn. Essentially, the enormous amount of mana that powers her body, which should be supplied by her horn, isn't readily available, and so her body is constantly plagued by pain and fatigue.
It is?
It's no wonder that Amelia-sama is surprised. That curl is too strong. Not once has that caused her to have a frown on her face, after all.
In response to Amelia, whose throat had caught, Roswaal shook his head slowly. Amelia's shock was shared by Subaru. He was aware that Ram had no horn, from Ram's words. He also knew that Ram had possessed outstanding abilities before losing her horn. It was just that he hadn't realized that there was a penalty for lacking a horn beyond the decline of ability, and that it was eroding her, even now.
I see. I've come to understand Mother Kyo's thoughts.
Then Julius suddenly spoke, having only heard the conversation until then, and nodded. Roswaal raised his eyebrows and hummed in response, and Subaru and Amelia looked at each other as well. The flow of the conversation had only been them confirming Ram's constitution. Julius adjusted his bags in front of Subaru and the others, who were shocked, as if he understood Roswaal's request.
The Oni clan possessed traits like the ability to manipulate an enormous amount of mana, and possess a strong body boasting quite the fighting strength. The essential thing that supports those two traits is the horn, which no other species possesses. If an Oni's horn fails to fulfill its role, and they suffer for it, there must be a replacement that fulfills the role of a horn.
I can only lament not knowing your name, seeing how intelligent you are. Being so understood from so little is a good feeling.
Oh, I see.
Roswaal admired Julius for his explanation. Amelia also clapped her hands from having understood. Thus, Subaru was the one person still perplexed and left behind. When the situation came to magical powers, Subaru was nothing but slow to understand them, as he was an amateur.
Don't just understand it by yourselves like that. What exactly does this mean?
It is a simple matter. Miss Ram's body is seeking the same amount of mana from the atmosphere as it did back when she had a horn. She lost her horn, and as she cannot find the mana, then someone else is required to provide a means for an external source. That is where we may come in.
Although, normally I take that role and supply her secretly at night.
Huh?
Inside Subaru, Julius's lecture and Roswaal's words allow the cogwheels of his brain to catch. Every night, he would see Ram rush to Roswaal's location with excitement. To be honest, Subaru looked away from the vividness of the suspicious relationship between master and a servant. After understanding the circumstances, thinking back on it, perhaps this was all there was?
Something come to your mind, Subaru-kun?
No. Nothing important. Go ahead and continue.
You sure?
Even though the misunderstanding he had held for over a year had been cleared up, it was still not enough to correct it. In the first place, Roswaal's family were a bunch bursting with shadiness, with how they had tried to meet the witch Echidna for generations and generations. Roswaal himself was remarkably attached to Echidna, something that was difficult to forget. Upon finding out that he was not cheating on her with Ram, Subaru became even more convinced of his obsession.
Though, there is one caveat, Mavis Kyo. Regarding that request, I feel I am not competent enough to take it up.
To Subaru's side, who was having useless thoughts, Julius shook his head apologetically. That action made Roswaal squint his eyes.
It doesn't seem that is a reason born of humbleness, or out of a wish to not support people from a different camp. Offering Ram mana would require fire, water, wind, and earth attributes. Just from those, you would be more fit for the job than Amelia-sama.
Mavis Kyo, you probably hold these expectations because of these girls around me.
With that said, Julius loosened his lips with a frail smile. Then the man who had responded revealed faint lights flying around, 6 kinds of light being visible. These were known as the 6 quasi-spirits that Julius had contracted with. However, at the moment...
About my buds. As of now, their connection with me is gone. However, their original titles still remained, then I would not have any qualms in accepting a request.
Your contract with the spirits has been severed from having your name taken away. Regardless, it seems like the spirits aren't trying to leave you.
Perhaps there are remains of the lost connection inside of them. Or perhaps it was bleached over and the contract is still there, albeit invisible. Either way, I am only being saved by these buds' kindness, that they are not abandoning someone unskilled like myself. There is little left in this body, so I wonder if my inadequate abilities would be able to help.
Julius exposed the connection with the quasi-spirits inside. After that, he looked at Subaru for barely a second. Subaru could not instantly figure out what he wanted with that look, so all he could do was to look troubled.
As of right now, I am merely a devoted knight. My apologies.
I see. That's too bad. It is a significant blow, but...
It's fine. If Julius can't do it, then leave it up to me.
Roswaal also lowered his tone due to Julius's sadness, but the person who took his place, puffed up with pride, was Amelia. Energetically moving forward, she brought out her own micro-spirits around her.
They're a little different from Julius's quasi-spirits, but I can borrow the powers of micro-spirits too. The fire attribute is too strong with just my magic, but if the micro-spirits can lend me their powers, then I can use magic of different affinities too. How's that sound?
Of course, I had thought of asking not only him, but Amelia-sama as well, so there shouldn't be a problem if you are willing to do it. However, I believe there will be extreme troubles at first with stabilizing your magic. For assistance with that, please borrow Beatrice's abilities for help.
Bearco's?
Beatrice really is excellent with magic theory and employing it. Wouldn't you agree? Right now she's connected to Subaru-kun, so I feel like there is some wasted talent, but things are working out despite her lacking magical power, right? In regards to that knowledge, I would like her to lend it to Amelia-sama for this.
Don't call it lacking magic. But I understand.
There was no problem if Ram's burden became lighter through Amelia and Beatrice's cooperation. Subaru had begun to be convinced, but right after he nodded, he cocked his head in puzzlement.
No, wait! If that's the case, then why are you telling me this instead of saying it directly to Beatrice? I mean, I want to hear it too, but it would be logical to tell this to Bearco.
Because if I talk to Beatrice, obviously, she will say, "It's meaningless," and refuse. Beatrice is more bitter with me than you think. Perhaps you could tell her to be a bit more lenient with her criticism towards me?
Not happening. If I had to say which side I'm on, I would say that I'm completely on Bearco's side after all.
He declined Roswaal's request with ease, who had a pitiful look on his face. Roswaal had done things, and that fact could not be challenged. Roswaal had done things, and that fact could not be changed. It was no trench that would be filled up in just a year, give or take. The times were not so nice that she would simply open her heart with someone who would have killed her. And had the events been different?
Now that I think about it, isn't it a bit troubling how I'm working with people who've killed me and people who've beaten me up?
Subaru, you've got the look like you're getting carried away with yourself.
Do I really look like that sometimes?
Anyhow, he had accepted Roswaal's request. As for Ram, Amelia and Beatrice would handle her. Amelia was motivated to do it, so there shouldn't be any problem if Subaru talked to Beatrice later.
I'm counting on you, Subaru-kun.
Huh? This really is special. You rarely ever say things like that.
You are becoming quite admirable. This is the first time Ram has requested to leave my side, you know.
That was the only thing Roswaal said that didn't give off a joking feeling, instead speaking with seriousness. Removing his gaze from Subaru's face, he looked up at the blue sky.
Ram and I have no memory of a younger twin sister, but I suppose the people involved still hold some feeling. Seeing Ram emotionally going against my opinion like that is chilling. So I want to ask you guys to talk to her.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind.
Even after the incident at Sanctuary that had taken place over a year ago, Ram devoted herself to Roswaal. Despite Roswaal saying that anything and everything came second after the one and only thing that was most important, he still held a soft spot for Ram, who had gone to such lengths to devote herself. If that could be called a change, then by no means was it a bad one. Or at least, it was far better being human and worrying with unmanageable emotions than it was burdening friends as an incomprehensible monster.
Seems like it's time.
Before he could speak further, Roswaal turned around. The mansion's door opened behind him, and 4 girls appeared on the other side. All of them made up the entirety of the maids of Roswaal's mansion. Seeing them all together was a pretty beautiful view. Although one of the girls was sleeping, and another girl who looked extremely similar to the sleeping one looked like she was prepared for a journey. So their beauty was slightly lacking.
Sir, the preparations for the 2 are set.
I appreciate your diligence. Ram, be careful on the trip.
Roswaal replied to Frederica, who had given her report very quietly, and called out to Ram, who was equipped for the journey. Ram pinched the edge of her skirt and bowed politely.
Roswaal-sama, thank you for granting my selfish request. I will definitely bring back the results you deserve.
I'll be looking forward to it. Although make sure you don't do anything unreasonable. Also make sure the 2 of them, Amelia-sama and Subaru-kun, don't do anything unreasonable either. That is also part of your role as well.
I am fully aware of that.
He wanted to retort to those words, but Ram's glare silenced him. Subaru gave in to that look, and looked at the short figure next to Ram. There was Rem. She was in clothes suitable for the trip, and was now being carried in a wheelchair driven by Petra. Subaru had relied on his memory to replicate something from his original world. A model of the wheelchair already existed in this world, but quite an amount of work had been put into remodeling it. It possessed caster-like front wheels that wouldn't pose a hindrance when changing directions, along with a scaffold and a modified seat. Of course, seat belts and cushions to protect her head had been implemented as well. It was a one-of-a-kind wheelchair that Subaru had Roswaal produce by spending Subaru's own salary.
I'm worried about any maintenance when we get far.
Subaru-sama is handy, and the materials are what they are, so I believe it could handle being used for 2 months. Of course, please do not do anything unreasonable.
Please be careful, Subaru-sama.
Receiving Frederica's endorsement, he took over the wheelchair's handle from Petra, accepting it, and going behind Rem, he felt a lot more ease this way compared to carrying her on his back. This was because the road was paved. It wouldn't be effective in the desert, on grass or gravel.
Okay, looks like it will work. Petra, Frederica, you guys take care too.
Please leave the master to us.
We'll be taking care of Otto-san and Garfield-san too.
Petra and Frederica replied to Subaru, accompanied with a nod while he moved with the wheelchair. Even if the trip were to take a couple of months, Otto and the others at Pristilla would probably be healed up, and so they should be coming back to the Roswaal residence. He left that up to the maids, who would take care of stuff while they were gone. Subaru pushed the wheelchair and turned towards the dragon carriage.
Alright then, it's a shame, but I guess we should depart now.
Why must Bar Soup boss people around? Don't get so full of yourself.
I'm not bossing you around though. How about you take over then?
Does Rom appear to have such ill manners to you? Rom would appreciate it if you don't make her behave like that, as a maid who needs to be graceful and considerate.
What's up with you? Are you at the age where you can do nothing but complain?
It is not the case. It's just that
Then she got off her sentence, and Ram threw a meaningful look at Subaru's hand. As of right now, Subaru was pushing Ram's wheelchair. He guessed the meaning of that look and let out a deep sigh.
If you want to switch places, then just say so.
Given the meaning and purpose of Ram coming along, it is only natural to give that up to me. As for guessing what Ram wanted without having heard put it into words, you are now seen in a better light.
With Subaru reluctantly giving up his position, Ram took his place and pushed the wheelchair. She showed care for her sleeping sister sitting on the wheelchair as it slowly headed forward towards the dragon carriage. Subaru opened and closed his hand for no reason, as he saw their backs take off. Then a small hand gently grabbed his own from the side.
Oh, it's Bayako.
You have to make such a pathetic face. Your feelings for that girl are not weaker than her sister's, so you don't need to worry, in fact. Subaru is Subaru, so just do what you can, I suppose.
It's not like that. Or is it?
It wasn't as if he felt like his role had been taken away from him, but looking from the outside, perhaps the look on his face could be understood in such a matter. Subaru touched his cheek with his free hand, pulled on it, and pinched it. Then, this time, his hand was snatched away by a different white hand.
Yeah. I'll take that hand.
Oh, Immediatan.
Wakes up. What Subaru will do with both his hands taken, in fact.
I might be interested in that too.
Subaru had been caught in between Amelia and Beatrice, looking at them embarrassed. However, he was only returned with two looks, a serious one and an anticipating one. To make matters worse, Petra's own gaze was piercing him from behind, and even Ram was throwing him a cold, scornful look, having turned around in front of the dragon carriage. He was completely surrounded. Then, Julius let out a accompanied with a nod, while witnessing that. In response to that craving for a reaction, Subaru's lips slanted grandly.
What is it? If you have something to say, say it! Go ahead!
Really? Alright then, I shall say merely one thing. You really could not be more blessed as a man, being surrounded by beautiful girls like that. I can't help but feel a lot of doubt on whether your hands are able to satisfy all of those flowers.
What's this? I'm being blamed? Did I do something wrong?
Julius shrugged his shoulders with a shocked face, as the pathetic shout Subaru replied to him soared towards the heavens. Unfortunately for him, at this place were neither the Internal Affairs Minister nor the head military officer to follow up on his statement. Subaru had no choice but to fight alone in this upcoming 2-month journey. Understanding that reality, he felt the trust and the deep affection of the warmth being transmitted into his hands fill him up, as well as anxiety in his chest about not falling behind. That was the type of morning it was, the one they had departed on.
Yay!
Good job, y'all.
That's
Nice.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yay.
When I first read that Ram reveal about her actually feeling immense pain due to the lack of horn, I actually felt so bad for calling her lazy for so long.
Mm-hmm.
You're calling a cripple lazy.
Yeah,
Yeah, laugh at the
sorry,
cripple,
Ram.
laugh at her.
Crazy
not
that
her
we've just
fault.
had disability representation this entire time. It's not pointed out a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact Subaru works so hard with his wages to modify a wheelchair. The fact that Roswaal's like, yeah, I'll take it out of your pay.
Sick move.
What's insane is if Subaru just sold the idea for casters for wheels, he'd be one of the richest people in all of Lagunica. That is a game-changing thing for shipping, handling, moving anything around, carriages, wheels, desks, everything we use in the modern day has casters on the wheels. It's such a big invention. It's Roswaal just made him pay for it.
Though then again, he doesn't really have the time to play investor, right? Inventor.
No,
Like,
but he
He could
use
He could.
Anastasia or Otto's contacts, get some
Certainly.
people to buy up the idea from him.
In Konosuba, that's touched upon a lot.
Yeah, it's exactly what I was thinking.
You can get really filthy rich.
Mm-hmm.
You just create the entire industrial revolution.
Yes.
Or just make a bunch of comfort items.
Yeah, also.
True.
Did Subaru invent plushies?
He
No, I
invented
don't
that
think so.
plushie, but
Oh,
she already
okay.
had a few of her own.
Plushies
Got it.
Yeah, like the specific ones of people.
He did effectively come up with the idea of a panda, though. Like, that doesn't exist elsewhere.
That is true.
Oh,
I guess
Eminence
it's
got a
bit less
good point.
weird than- It's a bit
in
less weird
chat.
when he names the panda after just a panda.
Mhm. Good point, Eminon, that with the argument on how is he going to hold Beatrice, Ram, and Amelia's hands at the same time, he has the unseen hand.
He uses his third hand, of course.
Yep.
Of course. He will just have to, always be on the verge of throwing up when he's holding all their hands.
Yeah.
He'll just
Though
die
again-
faster. Good for him.
Yeah. Beatrice's hand is small enough
Nice to
that
say.
he could probably fit her hand and Amelia's hand into one hand.
Probably, yeah.
Or Amelia holds on to one of the girls' hands, either Betty, so they look like parents, or Ren, so they just look like a giant line.
Or Beatrice.
Or
could
Beatrice
ride on
could
his
just
back.
sit on his shoulder, right?
Oh, true,
Or
they're
on his
so
lap.
Cute. Or like in one of those little baby things, the carriers that you
Oh,
stick on your
stroller?
chest.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think she'd be doing that one.
They make bigger ones that go on your back for like hiking. so-
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a dog in one of those before.
Wait,
Full dog.
Full dog, yeah, they have dog ones.
Look, let's just say Subaru is a clever person, and he might think of some of these ideas in the future. All right, we'll just leave it at that.
Possibly.
He
If
just
we were
gets
to give him
something
downtime.
A kindergarten rope to follow behind him. It's like all of his people behind. Or
One
he'll
has
be at
their
the
own
end.
little colored ribbon.
Yes. Hold on to the ribbon.
Oh, so this is why Satella always grabs his heart, because she knows that his hands are already occupied by somebody
Oh,
else.
yeah, okay. She has to go directly to the source.
The hand holding
up
was
to the
really
heart of the
cute.
hand.
It was.
It is.
Yeah.
Especially with everything to come.
Yeah. What
We
a
need
nice
Yeah.
present moment.
We
It's
love a
weird
moment.
seeing Julius so vulnerable, eh?
Yeah, especially after, well, like last chapter, Roswaal kind of broke through. Not last chapter. Last stream, Roswaal like broke through Julius'
armor?
shell and like really poked at his vulnerabilities a lot. It's like you're
Yeah.
doing this because you're for selfish reasons, right? Like, yeah, a lot of people are going to benefit from it, but you don't have to like lie that you are, this grand hero about all of it.
The only match for Julius' self-deprecation is Subaru's self-deprecation.
Yep,
Yep, pretty
that's
much.
the reason they're friends.
We love friends who can self-deprecate together. Trauma bonding.
Trauma
That's what we
bonding
should have named the
session.
next chapter.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
I may have brought a stool into the booth so I could simulate me riding.
What, are you going to be
Wow.
jumping up and down on it?
Not that far, no, but just so I'm on like a sitting position.
Rent
Okay.
a mechanical bull.
Wee.
Right to mechanical bull.
That's
No!
the thing
the
from
horse.
Texas Roadhouse.
Roadhouse.
Violent rocking chair.
Yeah. Yeah. Get a rocking chair and get like you know those people who take office chairs and then have a fire extinguisher?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
For some reason,
Yeah.
like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah.
Though
Yeah,
again,
voice acting like that. That would be great.
that would be nice. Very easy to record.
Truly.
Though a ground dragon ride is supposed to be quite smooth, so a stationary chair might in fact be better. You're onto something.
Well, a ride in a carriage pulled by ground dragons
Oh,
is
that's
With-
actually
Oh, really?
Divine
All right.
protection
Because when
of
you're
the
on-
wind.
Yes. So like the wind shaking and like the like being pulled on the road is fine. But if you're on them, you're still like going up and down like you're riding a horse. Like that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
At that point, just ride the horse.
Yeah.
I
There
don't think
are no
horses exist. They have ground dragons and ligers, or whatever the things were called that were
They,
definitely
and
animals.
ligers.
I do believe they do have them. I just don't think they've been mentioned yet.
I don't know, man. They don't have pandas.
I don't think pandas are
No
the.
pandas, therefore automatically horses are out
Yep.
too. That's
I
The
don't
only
think-
animals that exist are
Let's be real.
ligers.
In this terrible, hostile world, a panda's gonna survive for long? I don't think so. I'm just
No,
saying.
they're
probably
dead.
got a
They're
long
barely
time
going as
left.
is.
There was that one stream where we questioned if chickens existed, and then Subaru proceeded to mention chickens in the next chapter, and no one questioned what they were.
The thing is, Subaru can mention anything, and you can't take it for evidence of it existing in the world.
Yeah.
yeah.
I will say that there's probably horses, unless Meliquera is the only horse-like thing that ever existed.
I think it is, though.
To be
Could
fair,
be.
though, that line was in front of Garfield, who I feel would have been like, "What the fuck's a chicken?"
Well, Garfield and Subaru just have the unspoken understanding between them of they make references the other person doesn't get.
My amazing self doesn't understand this, but if the boss says it, it goes.
The boss. The boss.
That reminds me, I have the. What are those things? I'm blanking right now. The chapters between arcs.
Interludes.
Thank you. I was gonna
Interlude.
say intermission. Fuck. Interludes. We have all those interludes ready to go. I just gotta get our editors on editing them. Get our Garf back. Ooh, ooh, ooh. This is a very tiny chapter for terms of cast. Are you guys ready to rumble?
Let me run
Yeah.
to the restroom real quick before we do this one, since I'm
Okay.
going to be in it the whole time.
Cool.
Hi.
Oh, I
He's
should
ready
actually
to
probably
run.
grab some water. Lots of dialogue. And stuff.
Since I'm not in this one, I'm gonna bow out.
I hope you feel better,
Alright,
Trialdi.
Feel better
Yeah,
soon. Get some
I'll
good
try to-
rest.
Fare thee well.
Well, showing up.
soon.
So, all right, good luck with everything. I'll see you guys later.
Bye.
See you next
See ya.
week.
Goodbye. Can't believe she's dead.
I can return by.
I can return.
As a reminder, while we're taking a second, everybody, those of you who just rolled in, we are coming back later today with another stream. We are going to be live reacting to Anime Japan, and we are going to see what the ReZero panel is all about. Apparently, they're talking about season 3 as a whole. We're hoping for maybe a season 4 announcement, or at least like, hey, we got renewed, ha ha ha. Maybe a timeline, that'd be nice, but we don't know for sure. But we are going to be live streaming that. Connor, of course, as always, will be assisting us as best he can with his translations. And we're going to watch it together. That'll be at like 1:45 a.m. EST. So, but I think it's closer to midnight, 10 p.m. if you're West Coast. Yeah, so late stream, but worth it.
I can't wait for them to announce 5 REM figures and 1 shitty mobile game.
Yes.
It's
And then
gonna
they say that ReZero's been acquired by Netflix.
Ayo.
Yeah. And
then
then
they
it's
just-
really downhill.
You think
No,
Katakawa would
I
get rid of their
need to
cash
investigate that.
cow?
And so then they put infinite money into it, but they make it all CGI?
Oh,
Well, it'd be
Jesus.
Netflix instead of Crunchyroll, right?
Oh, that's
Not instead of
true.
Katakawa.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair, that's
It's
fair.
available to be streamed on Netflix. No,
Well,
that can't be right.
We're batch dropping Arc 4.
It
Arc
looks
4,
like
Arc 6.
the Katakawa booth is like so set up like beautifully, so I have a feeling it's big.
Oh, shit.
Funny enough, I think in Japan a lot of people watch ReZero on Netflix.
I would
I think so.
mean-
They have a lot.
I mean, Konosuba is on Netflix. Overlord Shield Hero, like I
Mhm.
saw that.
That checks out, makes sense.
Huh. Then why no ReZero? I don't know if I trust Netflix with that, but
I would.
You have a VPN.
I think it is on Japanese Netflix, just not American.
eventually.
Yeah, it's just licensing things.
Ooh, licensing things.
There's so many shows that end up on one platform, and you're like, wow, this is on here, but other stuff isn't. It's just how it ends up happening.
Crunchyroll used to have nothing in Poland.
Really?
Nothing. Well, like maybe it had something, right? But like 2/3 of the shows were just not available.
Yeah, well,
That
the Polish translators for Yen Press are like monsters in how fast they get stuff out. Like they've been only one novel behind for
The
almost
books
10
are
years
the
now.
books are good. I have a few of them, and it seems decent. Some people don't like it, apparently. Won't
That's gonna be
mention any
true anyway.
names.
it's so
Throwing
cool how many different
shade.
languages the light novels have been translated into, though. I know there's Portuguese ones too, for sure.
Chinese.
Chinese as well,
Hmm.
yeah. I think
Portuguese,
there's
really?
French ones as well. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, likely they have a lot of anime stuff, actually. Don't know if you guys know Witch Hat Atelier.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that has like even special editions, like specifically in France, as far as I can recall. Like
Really?
really good quality. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
The French love their witches.
Indeed.
Especially when you can burn them at the stake.
Okay, I don't think they were the ones burning them at the stake.
Look, they were mostly drowned.
Yeah.
Whoopsies. That wasn't me, okay? It's just my people.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Are we ready, everybody?
Yes.
Red.
So, as we divulge
Huzzah.
again. Okay, I'm just pulling up some stuff. Our narrator is Al number 1 fan. I believe.
Hello.
Hello, you ready?
Yes.
Woohoo! All right, and Wolf Connor, you ready?
Yes.
All right, Al number 1 fan, you can take it away when you're ready.
Arc 6, Chapter 6. The Julius inscription. The journey had begun with a morning filled with unease. The journey, which had lasted for about a month, had been long. However, no significant accidents happened along the way. They went straight along the main road heading east. It was a boring journey in which nothing.
It was like that with the round trip to Prestella. And it was like that with the Leafus Plains. Guess the Kingdom of Lagunica's pretty safe when on the road, eh?
Maintaining the roads and patrolling them to maintain the public order is essential to protect the kingdom's peace. Lagunica is particularly thorough with such aspects, even when compared to other countries. There should be low rates of damage from groups of bandits and witch beasts.
Are you saying other countries aren't like that?
In the Holy Kingdom of Gesteco, being always covered in ice and snow, it is impossible to properly maintain the roads in the first place. Roads are so deep in the snow that was there from the start. As for the Valachian Empire and the Karagi city-states, there are many people of all sorts, different races and customs. Such cultural differences may lead to quarrels. In that sense, it may be hard to say that public order is kept there.
I see.
As Subaru and Julius had their conversation, the two ground dragons were running energetically, their heads side by side as they cut through the wind. Subaru's Petrash and Julius's blue riding dragon were leading them ahead, the two pulling the large dragon carriage. Everyone in the dragon carriage would be late to react to the occasion of a. That was the arrangement they had, but as was noticeable from the conversation they were having out of boredom, the journey was peaceful.
Subaru?
On top of the journey being boring, with how the scenery wasn't changing, he started to yawn. Subaru put his hand on his mouth and became full of drowsiness as Julius gave him an accusatory look. While entrusting his weight to his beloved dragon, he quickly lifted his bangs that were kept from swaying through the divine protection of wind evasion.
I understand that you want to get rid of this feeling of tension, but the moments you loosen up are the most dangerous ones. I'm not saying that you allowed your mind to wander off, but acting in a way that anyone witnessing would perceive as lazy is unacceptable.
Just how much are you gonna say just because of one yawn? Even you at least yawn too, right?
Of course I have those bodily functions. But if you possess the self-consciousness of a knight, then it should be possible to hold it in front of other people, correct? That is what you still lack.
Yeah.
He was pressing for a reaction with piercingly sarcastic force, but Subaru was already becoming a master of parrying it. It was already nearing 20 days in this journey accompanied by Julius. From Bristella to the mansion, and now on our way to the Auguria sand dunes, they had been making the ground dragons run side by side, and so he had learned how to deal with them.
I thought it was a part of manners to look at the person you're talking to when having a serious conversation.
That person is looking away during the serious conversation because he hasn't asked to have said conversation. You should take it easy too. You're straining yourself too much.
You and I are on lookout duty. That is why.
You don't have to be so nervous. They won't attack us just like that. If anyone tries to jump us, they're not going to do it in the middle of nowhere.
Subaru interrupted him, speaking as he cracked his neck. Julius blinked as if Subaru had sent something unexpected. After that, the handsome man let out a small sigh.
Is it clear that I am impatient right now, in your eyes?
Yeah! I have a feeling it's a shot in the dark, though. But I feel like everyone thinks you're straining yourself. More than you... Actually, you might just be acting like your usual self.
As of right now, you're the only person who knows that I am being my usual self, after all.
Yeah.
When Julius lowered his tone, Subaru also naturally dropped his. They couldn't hear the girls' conversations back in the dragon carriage, so the girls should not be able to hear their conversation either. It was a complicated relationship between two men, but as of right now, they were working together. Perhaps this was a time when they should speak a little more frankly.
It's been talked about with Roswaal before, but how are your quasi-spirits?
It is as I stated previously. The buds are gathered around me, but they will not rest their feathers on the arm I hold out as a perch. It seems my words do not reach them either.
Julius raised his arm in response to Subaru's question, and the quasi-spirits came into view. The 6 quasi-spirits, shining faintly, still remained floating around Julius as he made the ground dragons run. However, they flickered on the hand he had held out as if in confusion, and attempted to move away. Indeed, it seemed that the bond between Julius and his quasi-spirits had been severed.
Can you not contract them yet again? You're attracting them somehow. So doesn't that mean your divine protection is working?
It seems like my divine protection of gathering spirits is still going strong, and in turn it contributes to these girls' incomprehensible awareness. It is like certain large, incomprehensible, unmanageable emotions are present.
Not sure how to ask this, but how about using other spirits?
I would have considered that idea, were I a spiritual arts user that could borrow the powers of microspirits present everywhere, much in the vein of Amelia-sama. But I cannot bring out the spirit's utmost abilities in such a way. I needed a few years to bind with these buds too.
Well, it is true that Amelia-tan can't bring out Puck's average power from other spirits too. I guess becoming Aikata with a spirit is a special thing after all.
Amelia-sama and the Great Spirit, and like you and Beatrice-sama.
It was rough. As a fellow spiritual arts user, Subaru was unable to say something like, "Go find some of those spirits," right away. It would be like asking him to let go of Beatrice even after their bond had been cut off. Of course, he would raise his middle finger and refuse as a response, and as for Julius, his relationship with the 6 quasi-spirits was the exact same thing.
Therefore, as of right now, I can only use my swordsmanship to fulfill my duties as a knight. Of course, I do not believe the sword is inferior to the spiritual arts, but it is true that my abilities make it insufficient.
This is also a journey to get that back. And with your sword skills, you saying that is mere sarcasm. And if it's me who you're fighting against, it's even more sarcastic.
As Julius had mentioned, there was his insufficient ability aside from the spiritual arts. A year ago, at the Royal Capital's training ground, that ability had been the one that ravaged Subaru. Subaru did become better compared to back then, but it did not feel like the distance had been fully covered. From Julius's point of view, fighting Subaru at that time was like taking candy from a baby. The current Subaru was as difficult as dealing with a 5-year-old. That was just about how different they were.
Reinhard is also like that. You guys have a bad habit of underestimating yourselves. Too much humility turns into poison. I think that saying is pretty universal.
I want to return the same phrase to you, but... You and I aside, Reinhardt most likely is not being humble or underestimating himself.
Not being humble or underestimating?
That instant, he imagined the redhead hero, but he cocked his head at the difference in his perception of the man. He had never thought that he would run into such differing opinions on Reinhard, because from anyone's perspective, he was the strongest, completely peerless, superhuman. In response to Subaru's doubt, Julius spoke
No.
shaking his head.
In regards to Reinhardt's true strength, you and I both rate it highly. Most likely, everyone who is aware of him shares the same sentiment. They all think that he is the peak of humans, or that perhaps he transcends humans.
It's amazing how that isn't an overstatement.
Not only his real ability, but his way of being has likewise been perfected. I first met him when I was around 10 years old, but it has never changed.
Ever since you were 10? Are you for real?
As he gripped onto Petra's bridle, Subaru was astonished by Julius's recollections. Just when had Reinhard become the person he was now? He thought it was quite the philosophical question, but at the very least, it seemed that the version of himself from about a decade ago had been completed, which meant that the boy had carried a very heroic fate on his shoulders.
Reinhard has been the Sword Saint since then?
He was 5 years of age when the divine protection of the Sword Saint was inherited by him. The previous Sword Saint was Teresia van Estrella-sama, Reinhardt's grandmother. She passed away in the Great Subjugation 15 years ago, and the divine protection was transferred to him.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
The previous Sword Saint, who had perished in battle with the White Whale, it still was humiliated after death. Reinhardt's grandmother, Wilhelm's wife, but this time at Pristella, the soul of that woman finally returned to the heavens. However, 15 years ago, Reinhardt had inherited that divine protection.
How does he feel? He received his grandmother's divine protection at the age of 5, and to make matters worse, he's descended from the blood of a legendary hero? I can't imagine how he feels.
Subaru somewhat understood the weight of holding up to parental expectations. Subaru could emphasize with the pain of being crushed by the weight of the expectations of those surrounding him. Of course, the weight and responsibilities that Subaru and Reinhard carried were extremely different, so comparing himself to Reinhard may have been rude in and of itself.
I'm honestly so weak. I'm so weak that I'm always frustrated because I'm weak and not good enough. There's not a night that goes by without me wishing to be strong enough to hold my own.
I feel like that's pretty groundless.
Shut up!
In the middle of his important speech, Subaru was made fun of, causing him to click his tongue.
Anyhow, I understand how he feels, even if I am the complete opposite. I don't think Reinhard is the same as he was when he was 5, but I do wonder how he felt back then.
As you would expect, I also do not know what he felt back in those days. But...
Cutting off his words, Julius then lifted his face. Gripping tightly onto the bridle, looking in front of him, Julius squinted at the sunlight that bathed him in a daze.
First time I saw Reinhardt was a major turning point for me.
Somewhere from those words, pride was oozing out. Julius was squinting from the sunlight, but perhaps he may have not been squinting because of the sun. Perhaps, back then, he had gazed at Reinhardt in the same way.
Which means that you and Reinhard have known each other for about a decade, I guess. I do think that barely satisfies the requirements for you guys to be childhood friends, but is that right?
No? Yes, that was when I became aware of Reinhardt, but he only found out about me long after, when I was appointed as Royal Guard. That happened when I was 16, so I have known him personally for 6 years.
That's a pretty big gap of time, isn't it?
At the time, I was not qualified enough to stand alongside someone who had just taken over as the Sword Saint. The fact that he was younger than me, too, was a painful reminder. And that was my beginning.
Julius said his words quietly, while the tone of his voice was passionate on the contrary. In response to the distant look his yellow eyes contained, Subaru nodded at that one word, beginning. Despite the vague wording, that day was probably vivid within Julius. If that was Julius's beginning, then it was given a word for it to be clear in his memory. Subaru's memory of his own beginning was hot in his chest, seared into his soul. The day he was saved by Amelia in a different world, the time Rem stood behind him when he was about to collapse, the time when he took Beatrice's hand amidst all the flames, all those times the Subaru were beginning.
When you say that was your beginning, does that mean you were surprisingly naughty as a kid? Like a debauched aristocrat or a playboy's son?
He went against the flow of emotions in the other person's affair and spoke with an intentionally teasing voice. There was no way that was Julius's case, but when Subaru had first met him, he did think Julius was a pompous young noble. And if it were to be a story, it was seemingly a given that this young noble had lived a haughty life in his boyhood. With those feelings in mind, Subaru changed the topic to alter the flow of the conversation, which made Julius suddenly loosen his lips.
Prefer if you changed the way you express it. Just a little. But there are parts that I cannot deny.
Seriously? You really were a Goldie Noble! Did you kick commoners from the top of a horse and persistently pressure servants by bullying them?
I cannot help but wonder as to why you are expressing such glee.
Julius sent a cold look at Subaru, who got excited. After that, Julius peeked behind himself. Perhaps he was concerned about not only the dragon carriage, but the girls in it as well. Of course, to go to such lengths to confirm that they were incapable of hearing their conversation was unnecessary, but it was a matter of him feeling like doing it.
How much do you know about the Julius family?
Nothing at all!
You answered so immediately, it seems you feel pleased about it.
He really did have zero background knowledge. Subaru threw out his chest, dexterously on top of the dragon, and Julius displayed a strained smile. After that, he felt his knight's sword on his waist. Perhaps it was handed down through Julius's family. From his face, it was plain for all to say that he'd felt some trepidation about having the qualifications to wield it himself at this time.
I am not the original heir of the Julius family.
Huh?
To put it more accurately, I should say that I am not the official heir. Alviero Julius is the current head of the House of Julius. My father, Klein Julius, was his younger brother. As he had already passed away, I have been adopted by the family head.
Subaru did not respond to those words. They had been more surprising than expected. It was difficult to say how much the structure of this world's noble society meshed with Subaru's knowledge of the society he knew, but Julius's position was definitely complicated. Also, in that case, then what was the position of his younger brother, Joshua Julius? The young man who had adored his older brother Julius was now lost from the memories of this world.
I do not know what is the actual nature of the relationship I have with Joshua, left back at Bristella. Is he my own younger brother that has inherited the blood of my real father, Klein Julius? Or is he a true, legitimate child that inherited the blood of my foster father, Alviero Julius?
What's the difference?
Siblings is merely a figure of speech here, so perhaps our relationship would essentially be cousins. In that case, the position of the head of the House of Julius would be inherited by Joshua Julius, most likely.
Huh?
Julius had delivered those words in a flat manner, and from that, he was convinced of their veracity. Even though this pertained to himself, this conversation was complex because Julius himself was unaware of his position. If Julius and Joshua were real siblings, then Julius would be first in succession for the House of Julius. However, if Julius and Joshua were not blood brothers, then it would be correct to say that Joshua would be the first in succession. Julius did not know how to confirm that. Joshua's existence had been wiped from the world, and Julius had lost his memories of his brother. For that reason, he was cognizant of where he stood.
It is somewhat unavoidable, but when I think about it, my position has become very complicated. Not knowing about your own tomorrow is not very appealing, although as of right now, I should worry more about being unable to ground myself than I should be about the head of Julius's leadership.
Julius said that in a seemingly joking way, perhaps because Subaru had received a shock. Subaru's mouth was dry, grinding his teeth while feeling irritation in his stomach. He was ridiculously worried about Julius with how he was feeling right now.
Because of my upbringing, I was unsure at the time. My foster father led me to the royal castle, and we were about to leave after I showed the poor etiquette that I had been taught. There, I laid my eyes on Reinhardt, who was an 8-year-old. That's all there is to it.
Albeit forcefully, Julius chose to end the conversation. There was no desire to deliver a retort or even some sort of clever remark. Subaru saw Julius look ahead in a lonesome way, and he stopped biting his molars. And then, what came out right away was a question.
Why do you suddenly feel like telling that to me?
I believe you were the one who inquired. Perhaps I'm mistaken?
No, that's true and all. That's my bad, but that's not what I'm getting at. Isn't it odd for you to have this kind of talk with me?
No, it is not. This affair was common knowledge for Reinhardt and Ferris, for people among the royal guards. Of course, Anastasia-sama also knows too. It's nothing special.
Subaru did not understand one bit as his face turned into a frown. Even if he had said that it was something everyone was aware of, that did not mean that it was something that he could spread around. After all, those words sounded unnatural. Perhaps Julius understood Subaru's discontent from his frown. He pulled onto the bridle and quickened the beloved dragon's pace just a bit.
Yes, it is something everyone is aware of. So that was why I might have wished for you to know about it just now. You, the person who remembers the most about me in this world right now.
The blue ground dragon accelerated while swinging its tail, and Julius's expression could no longer be seen. That being said, he was not going so fast as to leave him behind in the dirt. It was his way of smugly declaring the end of the conversation. As usual, simple as that.
It's fine. Thanks for the concern, Patricia.
The running, jet-black ground dragon had raised her head, glancing at Subaru. In response to her gesture, which said, "Shall we rival the ground dragon ahead?" Subaru showed his thanks and patted the head of that lady.
Typical.
Those small, sullen words poured out of his mouth. Was he becoming weak, or perhaps was he putting on airs as the protagonist of a tragedy? All he could say for sure was that he must have been irritating.
Oh, damn it! Am I an idiot? No, I definitely am an idiot.
Subaru scratched his head, and he released his irritation only from his mouth. In the end, no appropriate response to what Julius had told him came to mind. And that response wouldn't come until they reached the Auguria sand dunes, not even when they reached Marula, the last town before the dunes.
Yay!
Woo!
Oh,
Well done, everyone.
great work, everyone. Sorry for that dog interruption. Oh my gosh.
I thought that was my dog, actually.
Oh, good. No, it was my freaking dog. My cousins got picked up at the beginning of the chapter. I had to sweat it up there. Amazing. Pachi Pachi.
Oh, that chapter is so much fun to do.
Yep, I like it a lot.
Yeah. I noticed the slightly louder voices because they're in or on the dragons.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm literally, as my mic is positioned, I'm looking to my left as if Julius is there and chatting to him from a distance.
I had to
There's-
adjust your gain a million times.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
there's a few chapters actually later that we'll have to test out gain and audio sound when we're both on ground dragons that are running across a field far away from each other.
Oh God.
Oh,
that
that's
we can
gonna
do
be
in
interesting.
post-production.
We'll just fix that.
Yeah. Yeah.
These idiots just making out on dragons.
Yeah.
Come on.
Sorry for trauma dumping on him, but he's the only one who's gonna know the context. Jeez.
And he barely even knows.
Only one person left in the world. You're like, ah, okay.
I love how proud Subaru is of how little he knows about Julius. It's so funny. It's like, do you know anything about my family? Pff, fuck no.
Not a thing.
Of course not. What are you talking about,
Whenever
bro?
I see the Julius family in a book, I fucking skip it, bro. Of course.
Anytime anyone brings you up in a conversation, I shut it down. I move on.
That's cringe. We don't talk about feelings here.
Yeah, no, Amelia says, Julius came over. No, I say, nope, we don't like that guy. I end the conversation. I leave.
Skip dialogue, skip dialogue, skip dialogue.
Finds himself on the ground, Julius holding a sword over his body.
What?
I love the subtext of this chapter so much. The fact we get some cool exposition about just like what Subaru and Julius think about Reinhard a bit more deeply, and how that relates to their own feelings about themselves. The way they're interacting, how slowly the conversation, being weirdly nice, turns kind of sappy, emotional, and uncomfortable for both of them because they're not used to speaking like this.
It's like, wait, we're getting all, talking about feelings with each other.
Isn't that what friends do? That's cringe. We're not friends.
Wait, we're not supposed to do that.
Julius wants to be friends. He is actively making the effort to try and bridge that gap every single time, and Subaru's like, God, you suck.
Why can't we just be enemies and leave it at that, okay? It's just these are some of my favorite chapters, the Julius stuff in this arc. I just love that vulnerability to Julius is just so fascinating to me, and his dialogue with Subaru is great as always. It's one of my favorite parts of the series.
Like, it couldn't be attained if Otto or Garfield was here either. So, like, it was a good call having them put out. Otherwise, the dynamic would be completely different.
Yeah. Julius is rather interesting as a relationship with Subaru in the sense that he's similar to Rem in a way that he's critical of Subaru when he needs to be, in that Subaru feels his weaknesses and he feels vulnerable when he's with Julius because of his past experiences with him. But in another way, he looks to Julius as a role model and as a peer that he needs to meet. So it's like their dynamic is just great. I love it so much.
Julius sees Subaru as almost like this freer version of him, like without the weight of the responsibilities he's put on himself and that's put on by his family and his relationship with Reinhard.
Especially with his complicated family background and him not exactly being the austere noble that you initially think he is. It like adds that relation to Subaru being like that nobody a bit more together, especially with Julius now literally being a nobody because of what's happened to him.
Yeah. Losing your past will do that to you.
It's so wild to see Julius actually, like, I know we were joking when we were saying it earlier, Connor, but he's actually trauma dumping on Subaru. It's so unexpected.
He's trauma dumping, man.
Like, that's Subaru's thing.
No, someone should know his story, because there's a good chance he's going to die here, and he wants to not be completely forgotten. He's doing the same thing that they were doing when they were like wiping down and changing Rem's clothes. It's like it's just as a poignant point to make sure that he still exists in the world.
Yeah, even if
it's good to let it out too.
It is.
Like, ironically, Subaru for Julius fills Rem's role for Subaru, where Julius is like willing to show his weakness in front of Subaru.
Yeah, because Subaru is also seen and has like a a vision of Julius that's a lot stronger, which he doesn't necessarily want him to have either.
Yeah.
To be fair, he's pressed on Julius before to open up more. So Subaru being surprised here, I think, is more like you're actually opening up more than him opening up himself.
For sure.
Willingly.
You trust what?
One of my favorite, more low-key chapters of the arc. Honestly, the dialogue is just so good.
Sure
Yeah.
is.
Apologies for my silence. I'm setting up Aries lines for her as we speak. So that she is our ram. In the final version. She won't attend because she doesn't want to be spoiled. But yes, the Airy Ilulu is our ram moving forward.
Okay.
Wait a second. Does that mean later in this arc, if you're doing all like the proper, vocal simulation for riding on the dragon, does that mean you're gonna have to be on a wall?
I missed that last bit you cut out.
To be on a what?
To be on a wall. Like, are you gonna have to simulate running on a wall?
No.
Oh no!
Or would that
It was
also be handled by the divine.
It's because like the narration in that makes the point of them being far away and having to shout to each other.
I see. Okay.
All you guys need to do in your recordings is if it says shout, shout. If it says whisper, whisper. And then all the extra effects, we got that in editing. We got some fun things we can do. You don't want to do anything too crazy, because otherwise then you'll have to re-record.
Yes. Let me put just infinite reverb.
Can I bass boost my voice in post-production?
Like, we could do that.
Give your voice a bit more of that oomph.
Yeah. I think it desperately needs it. I sound too pathetic. I sound too much like Subaru.
Too much like him? That's a good thing.
You're perfect.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, just plain and simple. Not even to the how you play Subaru. Just no. It's okay to be pathetic, just in case. But
to a degree.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being slightly pitiful. Just don't be fully pitiful.
Yeah.
At some point, it's like, okay, man.
It's okay to be sad, but just be less sad, okay?
Just it's not like you've seen your friends die or anything. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's
get up,
man. You don't need to be. It's not that deep.
It's not that deep. Like they'll get back. They're alive. They'll get up. Just die. Come on, man.
It was I think it was the previous chapter where he also ruminates about how he's with a load of people that have either killed him or beaten him up. But I haven't realized that he hasn't really acknowledged that too much in the story so far. So it's kind of wild to see him do that.
Nope. It's like, these people kind of killed me before. Oh, okay.
Sounds to me.
Seems fine.
Yeah, this is fine.
Resenting them for what they did in another life would just breed more animosity.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what can you do really, except just sort of, yeah.
I do agree with Subaru's philosophy on how he approaches things.
Yeah. You can't blame them for something that, didn't happen, right? It's not them. And in a way, it's your actions. If your actions led to them doing that, then,
Yeah, what does that say about you, kind of thing? That's why Subaru has all of that self-doubt and self-guilt, for one of the reasons why, at least.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, he does have two people with him that have not beaten him up or killed him, at the very least.
Beatrice has definitely beaten him up. It's only Amelia that really hasn't done it.
Yo, when's that gonna happen? Arc
overtly maliciously, though.
No, I guess technically Anastasia's only mentally destroyed him and ruined a loop, but not actually physically hurt him.
It's true.
Unless she has, and that's going to be revealed later.
Unless she has, and it's, I don't know, a forgotten arc.
Echidna also reminds him of his least favorite witch, Echidna, so...
Yeah, that's true.
Witch.
You witch.
Which is which?
Which is which?
I wonder if
Witch.
he'll ever meet Pandora.
I
Maybe
hope
he
not.
already has.
Ooh.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Oh wow. I mean, Otto is obviously Pandora. Like that's.
I mean,
Yeah.
oh yeah, obvious.
That
You know,
theory
but there's,
is one of my favorite crackpot theories of all time.
it's so funny.
I still
It's
kind of
so
believe it.
No, so we
Okay, what is this theory? Why?
because they have platinum hair and that he's ignored
Two
by the Book
eyes.
of Wisdom.
Yeah.
The Book
No,
of
but-
Wisdom, and then there was like something in his past.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
we came to this thought though last night that because Otto's mom also has platinum hair, that what if Pandora is
Holy
like
shit.
a grandmother of them?
Damn. She's
Maybe.
just a
Maybe.
greedy little merchant all along. Checks out.
That would be one
Unless
of the
course.
that'd be the wildest familial relation in the series. Can you imagine this awesome, lovely guy, Otto? Oh, that's my great grandma. What the fuck?
Granny Lolly. Tepe's just cackling in his corner.
He already did the reuses.
I think it's
he
all
can do it
Suka. I'd
again.
be cackling, honestly.
Yeah, Atsuka.
Yeah.
Yes, I will write the pinnacle of beauty, a character that when you look at them, nothing in your body can say anything beauty. Oh, okay, let me just like
Child.
child.
Petite woman, sorry.
A child. Fuck.
There was a pre-design for her that was running around when the web novel edition of that was first coming out, and I
The blonde
remember-
hair?
Yeah, the blonde hair, and I remember
Yeah, that
looking at
was
that and being
great.
like, "Wait, is this not what this was supposed to be the entire time?"
It was fan made, right? I
It
think.
was, I believe so. Yeah, but
But it was it's based exclusively on the descriptions in the book.
yeah,
Which are vague.
and I was just like, "Wow,
Yeah.
this what this is just so much cooler as a design. It makes so much more sense. It's way more in character." But hey.
It's always vague because Tape doesn't have an internal image. Like he can't see something when he imagines it.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Aphantasia? Like that's confirmed?
Yeah,
Wow.
he submitted to it in a Q&A before.
Yeah, same with me. I like them that way.
It's why
No mind's eye.
a lot of the web novel has such long descriptions of like random things.
'Cause he
Like
has to
I'm
go
going to
for
spend
himself.
5 minutes describing what the room looks like, because without that he has no context for what's around them. A lot of that does get taken out in the editing, but not all of it. Sometimes you still see that shining through.
Let me just describe this chair, like, for a paragraph.
Dungeon Master's nightmare.
Oh god.
It focuses on the wrong thing.
Yep,
Oh my
exactly.
God.
People think it's important.
yeah.
Let me touch this chair.
The
Let me
apples.
sit in the chair.
I cast detect magic on that chair.
Chair, yeah.
You don't find anything.
It is just a chair.
That's
So
suspicious.
powerful.
What?
Maybe it's a glyph? Maybe, did we just fail to roll a high DC? Oh.
Yeah, it's a high level chair, man.
Oh,
Nobody just
shoot, I
puts a
missed it.
chair in a room.
Are curses on the same class as magic normally? DM, can I roll for this?
Damn. Yeah.
Half an hour.
Oh, what if it's a
passes.
mechanical trap?
I
2
cast
hours
find
pass.
traps. It tells that there are traps.
Find traps.
Fairy-chan appears.
Betty-chan.
Oh,
true.
Jesus, Kyle. That's not okay.
Sorry.
You can't say that anymore, Kyles.
Ah, sorry.
Hey.
Tis true, tis true. Sorry,
literally
terrible
called him a
meme does not exist. Mubby.
Cancelled.
I have
Cancelled.
no
I'm
context.
sorry. I was literally just looking at a meme on Twitter and it said that. That was my brain.
Feedback.
Uh-oh.
I can't multitask to save my life. Ugh. Gosh.
It's fine.
All right. Well, before we get too off crazy, we need to make sure that we have a little bit of rest before our stream
Yeah, exactly.
tonight.
We have
So
a
I
few-
think this is a great place to call it for today. Thank you all for listening to Arc 6
Yep.
once again.
Thank you so much.
It's
Yeah,
time to
100%.
split.
See you guys later
Thank
tonight
you.
for the event.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye,